Hello there. Come and let's commiserate with me, Sam.
And with me, Dave, as we commiserate together.
You were a little late on the timing there.
I didn't know what we were doing.
Naturally, you would say, and me, Dave.
Well, now we're here, so.
Now we're here. We have not, for as many of these as we've done, been able to have like a good, consistent intro.
I kind of like that. It's a little, it keeps things fresh, keeps things interesting.
Yeah. Well, we are back. And I am fighting a head cold, which is why we are recording remotely this week. It's not fun. Yeah, I was up in the middle of the night. My throat just felt like it was on absolute fire. And when your wife is a big believer in natural medicines and pumping you full of ginger and turmeric and even natural marshmallow, which is apparently medicinal. That's a thing. But you wake up in the middle of the night and you look at her and you say, "Can I please just have some regular medicine? Please. I've never wanted NyQuil more than I do right now." You pay the price. You have to believe in her. And her stuff is working. It is working. I realized...
Yeah, but your body would naturally heal itself given time as well. So is the holistic medicine really helping the process?
Well, this is only day three.
Naturally
this is only day 3 of me being sick. And I feel that the end is in sight. Usually when I get sick, if I do it the normal way of like letting it run its course or trying all the stuff that I've always had my whole life, I find it's like, okay, a week or so worth of feeling pretty bad during that week. If I do it her way, it's usually 2 or 3 days of I want to die. This is total misery. But then after that third day, I'm brand new. So
that makes sense.
We'll see how this pans.
Okay, I as much as we make fun of natural medicine and stuff, and I think especially in corporate America, there's this, I have an illness, give me a medication, give me a pill, give me something, and that like cures all your problems and stuff. Yeah. It's like no. Sometimes natural remedies like lemon honey, tea, sage, all of these essential oils and stuff.
The others.
I'm still a little iffy on the whole essential oil thing, because if it was truly essential, your body would make it.
Yeah.
However, they do have their benefits and stuff, and people that, know how to use the right thing for the right, the right solution to the right problem.
Yeah. So I have just been taking it easy.
I'm glad you're feeling better, Sam.
Yeah, it goes up and down.
It is. I always forget this whole like January, February, March. Like this is peak cold and flu season, where it's like below freezing at night, above freezing during the day.
Yeah.
People are getting outside, so people are feeling better. They want to go out and do stuff. They want to go on runs and jogs and go to the store and activities instead of just staying at home. But they're also, nasty. And this whole activity spurs more sharing is caring.
But with this type of sharing is not caring.
It's funny, actually. I was talking to some friends the other day, and they were making fun of... they passed somebody on the airplane with a mask on. And they were like, I can't believe they're wearing a mask. And I'm like, that's the one place you should wear them. And I understand this is a sensitive topic, has been for a couple of years. But especially after the pandemic, I understand, like, if you don't want to catch a cold on a plane, I've never been able to go on a plane and not catch something, especially during, like, the winter months.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah.
Well, a lot of people wore masks on planes. A lot of people wore masks on planes even before COVID, too. So that shouldn't be a big surprise, but yeah.
If you have a special event and you can't afford getting sick, let's be honest. I was talking to a buddy last week, and he was like, dude, work has been so bad and stuff. Like, it's been nonstop. I haven't had a weekend in months. He's like, I'm hoping I get a cold, and that way I can just stay at home for the week. I'm like, you know what? That's life is pretty bad when you're like, I
You're
need.
wishing for it.
Yeah, but he was like, I don't want the flu. I just like, I don't want to be vomiting. But he's like, I want a head cold so I can like still watch TV.
It is kind of the sweet spot. I won't lie. But yeah. How was your week?
It's been good. Busy,
Mhm.
busy. I don't really remember much of it. Um,
Well, I was going to
last
recommend because we were going to meet up to record in person tonight. I was like, yeah, I'm sick. I was going to say, but you know what? You should just get sick before your wedding and get it over with so that
just
you're
get
not
it out
sick
of the
the day
way.
of.
Yeah, I've been dodging a couple of cold. Like my dad was sick last week. My mom was sick this week. My little brother, actually, Mike, he came
Mhm.
down with the same thing. So they've been all. I feel like I'm dodging. No, the scene in Matrix where like he's dodging all of the bullets. I feel like
Oh, yeah.
I'm dodging a couple of colds, and I'm like,
Mhm.
I need 30 days. So we passed the 30-day mark. That was yesterday for the
Mhm.
wedding. So we are 30 days away from
Countdown
the
continue.
big one. So
The big one. Yeah.
that's exciting.
Yeah.
Jesse came over yesterday, and we started looking at a couple of apartments. Comparing layouts and sizes and locations, and it was really nice.
Nice.
It was really nice. I actually we looked at a couple of different places, and I had a chance to look at them before.
Mhm.
So I had my list of like, all right, I think she's gonna like this one. I don't think she's gonna like that one. This one's a maybe, but because of these reasons. And then I was able to compare like ask her, I'm like, so what do you think about this room? Or what do you think about this place? She's like, oh, I like it for these reasons. I'm like, yes, scored, nailed it, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
And then she's like, oh, but I don't like that. I was like, oh, I hadn't even thought about that.
I
So
wasn't expecting that.
yeah, so it was kind of fun to see, like, compare what I think she was gonna like, and
Mhm.
and then actually see what she chose.
Nice.
So it's coming along.
Are you looking at 1 or 2 bedroom places?
We're looking at well, hopefully a 2 bedroom or
Okay.
one, I guess a 1 bedroom.
Yes.
Because Jessie, she had a studio apartment for so long.
Hmm.
So that was her one question. She's just like, look, can we please try to look for a place with a door, just so. And I'm like, that's a huge amount of freedom. That's a
Oh
huge
yeah.
amount of freedom that
Hmm.
comes with, if you're tired and you want to go to bed, close the door.
Hmm.
Like, if I have to call my mother or my mother-in-law, and you know, or for privacy, for peace of
It
mind,
does help
for
having just
everything,
the.
just having your own
Mhm.
space. You know,
Yeah. It was when we moved into our place. Samantha really wanted to make one of the rooms, like she called it, her girl corner, and just where she set up her own TV and couch.
guys have the man cave,
Yeah.
women have the girl corner.
And she was like, yeah, that's going to be my place to get away and stuff. And then she just never really used it. She did it like once or twice, and then her whole thing was, well, I just get sad when we're both in the house and we're not in the same room.
I'm sorry, you could have called that from the start. You're like,
I was
no.
like, yeah, it didn't surprise me at all. So that's where we ended up setting up my home office. So that's
Nice. And you have 2 chairs there now.
yeah,
So that's great.
yeah.
I love how guys can have like, oh, I'm gonna have a garage or a
Mhm.
workshop or an office. And they can spend all day out there perfectly content and be
Mhm.
like, oh yeah, wife's, inside taking care of stuff. I'm out here in my shop. And be perfectly happy. And then you give that same exact setup to a girl and she's like, yeah, but I don't want to use it because you're not here.
Yeah.
Like,
It's oh,
it's a nice difference.
it is a nice thing. Before we get into today's review,
Ooh, exciting.
I wanted to address the review issue that we've been having on Etsy.
Oh, is this your commiseration? Is this your pet peeve of the
I don't
week?
know if this is really a commiseration or I think it's just something
It's
that
really
I feel needs to be addressed.
okay. So let's preface this with we're gonna talk to our Etsy seller demographic out there because
Hey
you know how
guys,
hard it is.
it's
You
us.
you work on a custom object or item, whether that's like a hand etched wooden plaque or custom shirts, clothing. Um, my sister actually is a huge Etsy fan. She gets like a bunch of customized stuff and for anniversaries and weddings and stuff.
Hmm.
Um, But apparently their review system is a little peculiar.
It's a little peculiar. That's a good way of putting it. So if you go onto our shop, uh, mysteriesondemand.etsy.shop or something like that, but it's Mysteries on Demand. That is where we sell our murder mystery party game kits. Now, we have gotten many, 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 many 5-star reviews. We have only ever gotten one-star review. And I'm going to read this to you. The descriptions for all of our games that you can buy, the very first thing it says is that it is a digital printable murder mystery kit. It is a digital package. And it says that multiple times throughout the description of the listing. Now, this reviewer apparently missed that. And this is what they wrote. They gave us 1 star. They said, I purchased this murder mystery game as I thought it would come as a tangible kit. Picture on Etsy shows an actual game box. No, it does not. It shows the printed pieces of the game after you download it.
Which you can print. They are standard 8.5 by 11 paper. Mm-hmm.
It states that very clearly. What I received was a virtual download link. This was not made clear before I hit the send button. Yes, it was. Also, many of the files are not even downloadable. I don't know what you're talking about. What a waste of $30. Do yourself a favor, buy murder mystery games that come already together and ready to use. Do not buy air that you need to figure out how it works. Now,
it's a bit hurtful. It's a bit air. She's buying air.
It's not just air, okay? You can download the air. We
can sell air?
Yeah, that's great.
Sam, we've been missing out on a target demographic.
Now, Etsy recommends to you as the seller to reach out to these individuals privately first before replying to them in a public forum, which I did. I said, hi, what can we do? I can even print out the game and ship it to you.
What can we do to make this right? Because the customer is always right.
Yes. I was like, I'm sorry that it wasn't made clear, even though it was very much made clear. And they just chose to stay angry and not respond to me at all. So now it's been many months. I think this was back in May.
Joke is on them. They missed out on one of the best.
This was back in May. Games. Yep. This was back in May. So now, unfortunately, I realized over the past few months that our average star rating on Etsy was gradually going down, like 4.8, 4.7, 4.6. And I was like, what is going on? And then one day I logged in and it just shows that we are rated at 1 star. And so I reached out to Etsy. I said, why is we have 30 5-star reviews and 1 1-star review. How is that showing the average? And they said, well, we only show the average reviews from the past year. And so and the annoying thing is people don't write reviews. That is infuriating. We've had so many sales, but so few people in comparison who will actually take the time to write a review. And so because no one else has left us a review in the past year, that 1-star review is what is sitting there. Now you can go to our page and scroll down and see the other 5-star reviews. But right now, on first glance, it shows you that we have 1 star based on 30 reviews. And that is not true. So
it's not true. It's a lie.
So just putting it out there, when you go to download our games, they are digital. You download them and you print them out. And it's very easy. Many people have done it. And ignore that 1-star review. Is that fair? I feel like I'm being fair here.
Well, I don't. I'm a little confused because as a seller, you're like, okay, that's a good thing if you're trying to sell a product that had a lot of negative reviews at the start. Like you release early and you need to patch stuff or fix stuff. Okay, great. That gives you an opportunity to remedy those issues and then improve the product and get better reviews as you go on. But as a buyer, I don't know if I like this only having reviews from the last 12 months. Because maybe kind of like we've seen people, like when the product first releases, people get excited about it, they write reviews and stuff, and then as a product kind of, I don't know, lays on, it doesn't it doesn't generate as much attention and stuff, people, and I don't know, ever since pandemic and stuff, people don't have enough more time. They certainly don't have enough interest. With AI, they're definitely not being creative enough to write responses and stuff.
And I will
Reviews.
admit, I tend to filter through most recent reviews, but on one hand, I do understand being from the past year. I think that makes more sense if you're a shop that has a ton of sales and stuff. When we, are just kind of getting off the ground here, wouldn't it be more fair to do better, Etsy? I don't understand displaying reviews this way.
I get it, and there is a, you gotta take it with a grain of salt because of negativity bias. Like people that have strong emotions typically are gonna write negative reviews.
They are.
Whereas people that are positive and happy are gonna go about their life without having done anything.
Yes.
So I get it. It makes sense. As a consumer, that's something you have to be aware of. As a seller, this is something you have to be aware of.
Yeah. So anyway, if you check out our kits.
But I don't mind blaming Etsy. Etsy do better.
If you check out our kits, be aware they are digital, which most people prefer these days. So do with that what you will.
I don't know. The last handful of parties we've thrown, like unless we personally print out the sheets because we have access to a nice color printer, most people just use their phones. They're on their phone, boom, boom, boom.
Yep.
And it's perfectly accessible through that. So.
Okay, hang on one sec. Hey, baby. Okay, all that being said.
Okay, let's pick up where we need to be. Because more and more info is coming out about the release dates for Andor.
Yes.
Star Wars just announced the time that they're going to be streaming or posting the Andor Season 2, which is actually really exciting.
Yeah.
Also, did you see the new BDX droids that Disney has in not Disney, Disneyland
in Galaxy's Edge?
In Galaxy's Edge, they have a little. They're actually, it's really cool. So they have these little BDX droids. They what's the word? Premiered them like 2 or 3 months ago, but you could tell that the programming was really, really stiff. But since then, they've gone back and redeveloped some of the underlying walking. They've actually got it to be AI trained. So they're like, all right, here's the animation from the movies. Mimic how they walk. And now these droids are like walking around, interacting. It was at not E3. I forget where they were showing these off.
The D23.
Yeah, they stole the show. I mean,
really?
And it was kind of obnoxious. Everyone was like crowding around them with their phones. They were like, "Oh, look at that, so cute." I'm like, dude, interact with the droid. Get your phone out the way, Yeah.
We got a polarized response to our take on Kathleen Kennedy's supposed exit.
Okay, to be fair, that was a very divisive.
It was very divisive. It was like half the people supported our stance on it, and then there were a couple of just 2 grown men crying on a podcast about Kathleen Kennedy, like, grow up. I was like, yeah, is that not what you came here for?
Yeah. This is literally, it's named Let's Commiserate.
Yeah.
I don't know what else you expected.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get into Andor Season 2. Or Andor Season 1. So I think we're picking up Episode 4.
Episode 4, Aldhani. We go back to...
And for the remainder, Aldhani is the main planet that the rest of this series kind of focuses on. At least
Not
for
really.
Cassian's character.
It's a 3-episode arc that takes place in Aldhani.
I feel like a lot more happened on this than...
Everything circles back to Ferrix. Spoiler alert. Let's get that out of the way now. But for the next...
Oh, come on. Okay. Do we really need to give spoiler alerts on this anymore?
There's always that one.
Disney put it on YouTube. They put Andor on YouTube for free.
That was a big move. Can
we talk about that for a second?
Really trying to hype up this next season. And it's making me nervous. I don't know if they're buying into their own hype a little too much, saying, hey, not many people watch this, but hey, critics really, really like this show. They liked this show, okay? Please, 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 watch this show. And we'll see how it works out for them. But Still hoping that season 2 stays true to season 1, and we'll see what happens from there. But at the start of this episode, we pick back up with Cassian and Luthen, and
I just wanted to say the episode 4 recap. I forgot how much happened in the last like 3 episodes.
yes,
The recap was incredible. Like just all that happened on Ferrix, all that happened with Luthen, and then this episode, this episode, it jumps around between 2 different planet. Like a lot was happening.
there was a lot happening.
So there's a couple of, I think there's like 3 main story threads going on.
Yep.
We're going to talk about it a little bit throughout, but a lot happened in this episode.
Yes. So Cassian and Luthen, they're traveling through hyperspace, which apparently was a modification that Luthen made to this Fondor Hallcraft.
It is obvious that Luthen has a very pimped out ship, you know.
Yes. Good for him. Only thing I noted here, he gives Cassian some med nog. I'm like, is that like eggnog but medicinal? It sounds yummy.
Medical eggnog.
Yeah.
Basically, it's like really, really strong medicinal liqueur, you know. I can't think. I'd say Jägermeister, but
Yeah.
the Star Wars version.
This is the only instance that it ever appears in the Star Wars universe, apparently. So I'm not gonna.
Well, I hope it. I hope it makes more of a comeback, because we only know of like the books. You know, that's what gets me is like in the Star Wars, in the films, they only have like Spotchka. That's like pretty much the only.
Yeah.
And Adrian Ale.
And blue milk.
Aldhani Ale and blue milk. I'm like, that's all they have. In the books, they had a lot more. Like the Han Solo series, there was like probably 20 different drinks that they ordered at different restaurants and stuff.
I remember
it's interesting to see them kind of branching out.
I remember getting the blue milk drink at Galaxy's Edge, and it was the worst $12 I had ever spent.
Not worth it. It's literally blue milk.
Buyer beware. It was
Why would you
literally
do
just. I was caught up in the atmosphere and the moment, and
you know what would be great right now? A glass of milk.
Okay, so
anyway, continuing. So
Luthen he basically tells Cassian, "Look, you might as well stick with me," and you know,
Luthen works Cassian.
Yes.
I mean, he is and Cassian is not giving him any.
Yeah,
any
he's like
corner.
He knows basically his entire history. He's like, "Look, I never cared about the Starpath unit. I came for you. And, you know, you love sticking it to the Empire. Why not do it in a big way?" And so,
and
at first,
asking, like,
Cassian's a little apprehensive.
Cassian's like, yeah, you're the Alliance, you're the Separatists, you're the Partition Front. Does it matter? And Luthen's like, yeah, it matters. We're all fighting for the greater cause of sticking an eye in the Empire.
And his plan is to steal the entire quarterly payroll for an Imperial sector. So that's
a pretty hefty chunk of change.
Yeah.
Which makes a lot more sense where later on Luthen offers him 200,000 credits.
Yes.
That's a lot of cash.
That's a hefty sum.
You know, if you do the math, you know, the credit is about like 1.2, 1.4 US dollars. I don't know what that is with 2025 inflation, but it's probably less.
Yeah.
But it's about that. So I mean, the guy offers him 250, 300,000 for 5 days worth of work. That's not bad, you know.
It's not bad. We then. Oh, this is one interesting tidbit here. I don't know if it came in at this point. Oh yes. Luthen gives Cassian the Skykyber signet.
That comes in a little later. So
does it come in a little later?
Save that. So there's a cut. I don't know if we want to go how chronologically we want to go.
Who cares? It's like the scene after.
It is the scene after. Okay, fine. Okay, so he gives him the Kawadi signet.
Yeah, and it is said to commemorate the uprising against the Rakatan invaders. And the Star Wars nerd in me was jumping up and down because you learn very heavily about them in my favorite game, Knights of the Old Republic. And yeah, I was geeking out.
KOTOR reference. It's the Kyber. It's a Kyber crystal called the Sky Stone.
Yep.
So he said it's worth at least 50,000 credits, but it's worth a lot more to Luthen. So,
Yes.
but there's this nice emotional, like, Cassian's like, yeah, but what if I die? And Luthen's like, yeah, I want it back. Don't die, idiot.
He's like, so. Like,
also, don't run off. Don't steal my Skystone. But
yeah,
don't go stealing my Skystone.
We then meet Dedra. Is that how we say her name?
Dedra.
Of the ISB, the Imperial Security Bureau, and in a meeting they mentioned the incident on Ferrix and how a Starpath. What?
You said Empire Security Bureau.
Did I say Empire Security Bureau?
It's Imperial.
I wrote down Imperial. Did I not say Imperial?
Otherwise, it'd be the ESB.
Did I not say Imperial?
Maybe you did. I'll let it. So we go back to Coruscant, and there's this whole, like, the big conference meeting with, like, the head chief and, like, the sector coordinators, or the sector chiefs. And what's the guy's name? Major Partagas? Partagas? I don't know how to say it.
Partagas.
Him.
Yeah.
So he's, like, chairing this meeting, and this is, like, a heavy meeting. I mean, they're talking about, like, how's your sector? And they're like, oh yeah, we had a rebellion here, we crushed it. We have this many prisoners here, and we dealt with that. And he has kind of this moment of awareness, and he's like, all right, people, let's review, like, why are we here?
Hey, let's give the audience some exposition, shall we?
Just a little bit.
Basically,
so Dedra is like, we're here for, like, the health and protection security of the nation to provide information to the Empire. And he's like, yes, no, wrong. That's what the book says. Why are we here? He says, we are healthcare providers. We find, like, we see when there's illness, we discern illness, and then we fix it.
This was
a great little.
Like, we find the germs and we dispose of the germs. I was like, that is a good way of looking at it.
So then there's a little Easter egg here. They turn to the one guy and they say, how's your sector going? He's like, by the way, we've noticed a lot of construction material going to Scarif.
Yeah.
Hint, hint.
Like, what could that be?
What could that possibly be? If you've not seen Rogue One yet,
then tune back in what, a few months for our Rogue One review when we do that.
In a few months.
Yeah.
So now we cut back to Aldhani.
Yep. And we meet Vel, and she's the leader of this little group there. Luthen tells her, hey, no, he's with us. He is disposable, but however you got to sell it to these guys, it didn't come from me, but he is with you. Deal with it. She is not jazzed that
she's heated.
Cassian or Clem, he is going by Clem. She's not jazzed that he's not only there, but he's also being paid for the mission, which goes against everything that it's supposed to stand for.
Seditionist. He's not a true rebellion partisan.
A rebel.
He's a mercenary. He's there for the money, which means that he's just going to run if his life's in danger. So I
did notice she was the first one to say the word rebellion. I was like, all right, there we go.
I was like, all right, noted.
Yep.
Because you got to remember at this point, and I love how this series kind of weaves it in with Dedra's team, the ISB and stuff. There is no collective, because, like, we all know Episode 4, Star Wars Episode 4, 5, and 6, like the Rebellion, which is an organized, like, not international, like multi-system organization. It's they have battle cruisers, and they have hundreds of thousands of soldiers and support personnel and stuff. Whereas here, it's just pockets. It's little pockets of guerrilla fighters, of resistance fighters and stuff. And Luthen is smart enough to know that he needs to start building connections and aligning these people. There's a couple of references throughout, like Saw Gerrera, which we know he's a rebellion
extremist,
an extremist, a rebellious leader, faction leader. But Luthen's, anyway, we're gonna get into that later. Luthen's connecting all of these little pieces.
We check back in with Cyril, who gets extremely fired, and it's humiliating.
And thanks to him, the Empire has now taken over all Imperial authority on Ferrix.
Yes.
And Morlana.
And the Morlana system, yeah.
Yeah.
But then Cassian, he's returning to the crew that's posing as farmers on Aldhani with Vel. She tells him, look, we are never going to speak of Luthen, basically starting right now. Oh, and BT dubs, we kind of have to face a whole garrison for this job.
And he's like, what?
Thanks,
a garrison?
bye.
You did not tell me about a garrison?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, side note, I was noting that Aldhani, wherever they shot it, is beautiful. Of course, they shot it in the Scottish Highlands.
Of course.
And apparently Diego Luna is half Scottish.
What? No. Okay.
I know.
IMDb, here we're coming. Diego Luna?
Yes.
Oh, do you see as an upcoming movie?
His mother was a British costume designer of Scottish and English descent.
So he's a quarter Scottish.
Well, yeah, but
Scottish.
that's
okay. Well, that's so he went home. He went home to film this. That's awesome. But I am very happy that Diego Luna was cast for this role because he crushed it.
He's phenomenal.
Okay. Let's pick back up. So Vel is very mad that they just threw another because they're 5 days away from 5 days away from the actual robbery, the heist.
Yes.
So
she's
mad because they've been, it's this one passing sentence. She's like, we've been out here living for months, eating roots, sleeping on rocks, preparing for this, and now you're throwing in another deck in the card 5 days before we're supposed to go down. Like, this whole thing is supposed to go down. And Luthen's like, look, he's an asset. He's a redundancy in all areas. He's a shooter. He's a fighter. He's a pilot. He's a smart guy. He can do anything that your team needs. And they were already short a guy. So
and didn't she just straight up tell the team, like, oh, he's just doing redundancy?
Yeah. So
something.
So the entire crew, aside from Vel, they don't know anything about Luthen.
No.
So Vel is like, this is my decision. This is my call. This was part of the plan the entire time. And they're like, what the heck?
Yeah.
You should have told us. And she's like, yeah, maybe. Anyway.
She's like, I agree. I should have. I thought they were, I understand, it's late in the game, so they're a little distrusting. I thought it was a little much. I was like, could you guys, calm down? Like, how did you react when each of you joined this thing? Like, chill, bruh. Okay,
it's like, calm down. So there's a lot of back and forth scene cutting here between the ISB agency on Coruscant and then back to Aldhani.
Yeah.
Kind of in a sum up. So our ISB agent, what's her name again? Daedra. She hears in the one meeting, there was a Starpath unit that was stolen.
Yeah.
I want to look at the reports, look at the the filings. We're going to find that, because if we can find that Starpath unit, we get jurisdiction, we get to investigate, we get access to everything in that theft.
Because apparently the Starpath unit was taken from her sector, which I totally did not pick up on the first time I watched this show. That makes more sense.
Yeah, which gives her, because this is all red tape. This is all the inner politics.
Yeah, and she is, she's a fairly complex character because she does have a tough exterior, but it is touched upon later. Her trying to climb the ladder, but we'll get to that.
We're going to talk about that. She's I remember when this first released, everyone loved her as the girl boss. Like, she was taking charge. She was serious. She was working on her career. She was fixing the galaxy and stuff. We're going to talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can actually talk about that on the podcast, but
we can
getting canceled. But
we've said enough to get us canceled.
That comes later.
But yeah, she wants everything on Ferrix. The guy
she
sector it is under, he is
secretary or whatever to go to the other guy.
Mm-hmm.
I have his name here.
So
she sends her secretary to go get the report. He denies the request.
Yeah,
so then she goes.
Power struggle.
And there's this. They have a little. That's what I love about. There's something both of them have. I guess British accents. So they're saying things. The words they are saying are very nice, but the meaning, the content of whatever they're saying is very aggressive. So she's why won't she give him the report? He's like, there
is no passive aggression like British passive aggression. Yeah.
And we love them because they're
We love them. We love it. And
very entertaining.
so back with Luthen, we get to see him transform into his alter ego. We can even see him like kind of practicing.
I love this bit.
I just
Luthen
love
is
it.
one of the deepest characters in this entire series. So he goes to the closet, he puts on the wig, puts on the rings, puts on the gown, and then starts the method acting, the gesturing, the posturing, the accent.
And that's when you realize he is actually under deep cover. He is committed, so it says a lot. So, okay, Cassian, he's taken back to the group. As we said, they are soups, untrusting of him, not happy about it. The only nice guy in the group is Nemec. He's the only one who somewhat welcomes it.
I love this whole bit because they don't introduce anyone for the first like couple of minutes.
Yeah.
But they have this whole like Nemec falls asleep. Skeen wakes him up and he's like, "You fell asleep on watch, they would kill you and any other, resistance that if you did that and stuff." And just the big kicker here is like, how do you know if they're resistance fighters? Is because their blasters look like AKs. And I'm like, that's your first sign. Oh, are these resistance fighters? Yeah. That's an automatic shoo-in. So they introduce Skeen, Terramin, Nemec, and Cinta. Cinta goes and cleans up Clem's. He got a pretty nasty blaster burn on his arm. Everyone's a little heated that they are introducing a new character to this mix. But Val plays it off very cool. She's like, "Look, this is happening."
Like, hey, do what I say. Shut up and go make me dinner.
One of my favorite scenes, it cuts here to the LaGuardia of Coruscant with Cyril going home with his little aluminum suitcases, walking the streets of the city. He goes down to, I think it looks like floor 90. I can't tell if it's 090 or 90D. Either way, he heads down to his mother. She's like, "Hello, mother." Yeah. She immediately slaps him and then gives him a hug. Stereotypical Italian mother love.
Well, Cyril, like a true millennial, decides to move back home. And
because the real world is difficult.
Yes. And that's when we are introduced to his toxic mother, who is the best.
You're calling her toxic? That's like a New York or Italian mother.
You didn't let me finish.
Okay.
I think she's the best character in the whole show.
Oh, okay. Sorry. That was a critical. That was a very important.
That's a key element. Oh, she's super toxic. This is the only time we see her in this episode, but in the coming episodes, the dynamic is very Lucille and Buster Bluth.
Yeah.
And it just only gets worse. But that's the only things that happen with Cyril this episode. And then Luthen is in his shop and enter Mon Mothma. I forgot how we didn't see her until this late in the show. The first
halfway through the season, and Mon Mothma finally appears.
And we need to give Genevieve O'Reilly a shout out because this whole recent chapter of her Star Wars career is such poetic justice. If any viewers out there don't know, Genevieve O'Reilly did portray Mon Mothma in Revenge of the Sith back in 2005. There was an entire story arc of her working with Padme Amidala and Bail Organa to form kind of the seeds of the rebellion. Multiple scenes. And they shot and filmed them all, and then they got cut. And she is never seen for that film.
The director's cutting floor is not a good place to be.
It is not a good place to end up in. And yeah, she was portraying this character who, even though Mon Mothma in Return of the Jedi only has one scene and a few lines, made quite an impact. And then it's just gone. So then fast forward to 2016, the release of Rogue One, Genevieve O'Reilly got to play Mon Mothma again in that film and got to portray her throughout this entire series. So I'd say she got an even better deal in the end.
In a way, yeah. And this is one of this is why I love Andor so much. Is it because it puts so much precedence on the political aspect of things, because Mon Mothma is a senator. She's a Shaldoranian senator. So she's living on Coruscant. She's trying to play both sides. She's trying to like actually help in the Senate. Later on in the episode, it talks about some of like the bills that she's trying to help. But then later or earlier here, you kind of see that she's this whole conversation with Luthen. And I love the way they portray it. Like Luthen's acting his natural charm. He's like, come look at show this, this piece. You have an anniversary for your husband, the Day of Days, and I have this thing, and he goes in the back, and then his demeanor immediately changes. You can see the pretense. Yeah. He's like, and he says, "We need funding, not more people." And she's like, "I'm trying to get you the money," and then you realize the relationship. She is funding Luthen's rebellion. Yeah. So Luthen's like, look, there's a lot of mouths to feed, and we can't do it. They can only live on scraps for so long. Yeah. And she's like, yeah, but they're watching me. It's hinted that she has a new driver. Hint, hint. He's probably a spy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough for her because she's constantly under watch. And she's also got rich people problems, too. As it turns out, her husband is planning this dinner party. They don't see eye to eye, clearly, on a lot of things. He's invited a lot of people who are on the polar opposite sides of issues that she is on. But they kind of build the tension there. And then we go back to Cassian / Clem's group. Again, this group does not take nicely to willing volunteers. I was like, no wonder it took so long for the rebellion to form. You guys just don't work together. But Vel is laying out the plan, and Cassian's like, this is really stupid and risky, and what are you doing? But they're willing to go for it.
Yeah, so I think just going back a little bit, they cut back to Aldhani, and you hear a speeder bike pull up, and off gets an Imperial officer. And he just walks up to the camp like he belongs. And then turns out, that's Lieutenant Gorn. He's actually with you guys. So they have an inside man. He's working as a lieutenant at the armory, but he's actually part of this little rebellion. So he's also very heated that Clem is there. So they have this whole, they're just mad. They're just stressed. Okay, maybe they're just stressed. How about you like to go camping for 6 months in the wilderness, eating roots and sleeping on rocks? See how you like it.
I'd probably be
anyway, so they break out this whole thing. They have like a scale model like on the table. They're like, all right, here's the armory, here's the cave system. Not Skeen. What's the other kid's name? Nemec. Nemec is like, let me move this. The glue, falls apart if it gets out.
You guys are gonna ruin my action figures.
He's like, I'm sorry, it's not to scale. I'm like, see, he's so cute. He's so funny. And then apparently there's this whole big deal with the ship. It's a Rono freighter. And Cassian or Clem is like, yeah, you're not going to escape in that. That thing's like a box with wings. And they're like, yeah, but you can fly it, right? He's like, yeah, not with TIE fighters literally on his tail.
Yeah.
So there's this whole, and they're like, look, here's this campfire dinner. Here's this whole book of Aldhani language, catchphrases. You need to memorize all of this by tomorrow.
Tonight, yeah. I was like, okay.
That's a bit rushed.
I think, what are you going to be doing tomorrow? Camping some more? Like, the thing's not for another 3 days. Some goats. Like, that's where we leave it with them. We go back, and that's actually the last shot of the episode. Again, like, a non-cliffhanger ending, again. But yeah.
Not for this series. There's no... Because they know we're going to watch it. Yeah. There is this one, they're talking about the base and stuff, and they're like, there's this one event that happens once every 3 years. It's called the Mik'ani Aldhani, the Eye of Aldhani, which it's like, and Nemec has to, jump in there and give this exposition about what it is. And he's like, no, it's a bunch of like billions of microcrystals in the atmosphere that okay. Basically, it's a meteor shower. It is a meteor shower on steroids. And it happens once every 3 years. And that's going to be their one opportunity, their one window. It only happens once every 3 years, and it happens within 3 days from now. And they're going to use that as the cover for their little robbery.
Yeah, so it's a risky plan. We go back with Daedra, and she is the only one. They meet with their supervisor. I forget his name again, but
So Miro,
yeah,
Lieutenant Miro, Lieutenant Daedra, and Major Pain in the Butt. Sorry,
anyway,
Major Partargaz.
okay. Daedra is the only one picking up on a potential organized rebellion forming, and so say what you will about her character.
Yeah,
I don't
but
pick up too much on.
she gets the point though. She's like, look, I have the feeling that they're stealing this thing and this thing from these different sectors. They're stealing the same stuff. They're using the same tactics. And Protergas is like, you're going off your gut. Like, where did you came? You come enforcement? And he's like, no, here we deal with facts. We
Yeah.
feel you like you find me some evidence, you come back to me, we'll deal with it. But Daedra has the right idea.
Yes. And the super he tells her after the other guy leaves, he's like, "Look, I know it's tough being a girly pop in this place, but you still got to be held to the same standards as everyone else." I thought that was a very fair assessment of like taking a feminist character, like not giving like the full, you know, all powerful girl boss treatment. She is tough, but you can see her flaws as well. The kind of insecurities there. Like she does want to climb that ladder a little bit, but she is also competent.
I love the way he puts it. He's like, you are supposed to be superior and tucked away. So
Yeah.
like I was like, man, what a interesting duality there.
It was
But she takes the point. She's obviously deflated because she didn't get what she wants. But she realizes that the major kind of has her back. She just has to play by
she's not without
the
hope.
rules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
So I think that's the whole episode there.
that's the whole episode, guys. What'd you think?
No cliffhanger, just kind of
no cliffhanger again. It just kind of ends. It sets up the plot points
as
for this
far
next
as
arc.
story progression goes, this episode was really good. Like
Yeah.
there was a lot of cutting back and forth. The storytelling was a little bit confusing at times because it was back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. But it was very entertaining as a viewer.
Yeah.
They
I think
paced it
for me,
really
this
well.
was the first episode where the show kind of kicked into high gear a little bit, where you started to feel the intensity a little more. So
You start feeling the little lump in your throat, like the little bit of stress.
yeah,
and
like,
you're
this is serious now.
Yeah, they have a once in a 3-year window to pull this robbery off.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, Mon Mothma's being spied on and also trying to fund a rebellion. Luthen is literally wearing a wig and being an actor like all day long.
Things are happening.
Like, okay, this is a little stressful,
So
exciting
stay
episode.
tuned. Stay tuned. We will be back next week for episode 5 of Andor season 1. I don't know what it's called, but we can't wait to discuss it.
Make sure to tune in next week for more commiseration.
See you guys.